Deception to someone you care about hurts a lot, especially when it comes from them. When people we care about do things that go against what we expect, they break our trust, which is the basis of all relationships. Criminologists stress how important it is to look for connections with the victim when they are examining a terrible crime. But what happens when the planned course of action changes? Imagine that the victim is mentally or physically unable to communicate what is happening. The criminal is involved in a complicated web of avoiding punishment and is desperately trying to erase all evidence of their evil actions. The story sounds like something out of a scary movie, but it was a harsh truth that happened a few years ago. Wang Nan's life journey unfolded against the backdrop of success and ambition. She was born in 1987 in Nanjing, a prominent city that once held the capital of China. She hailed from a well-off family. Her parents dedicated themselves to providing her with the finest education, nurturing her skills and fostering her potential. Following her high school graduation, she pursued higher education at a renowned university, delving into the intricacies of business and banking. Concurrently, she immersed herself in various language courses, broadening her linguistic horizons. Post her academic endeavors, she secured a position at a major travel agency, where her competence, responsibility, and strong work ethic quickly propelled her up the corporate ladder. Soon after, she was assigned to oversee the establishment of a new branch in Thailand. For several years, she thrived as the top manager at the travel agency. However, driven by entrepreneurial spirit, she eventually departed from the corporate world to embark on her own venture. She ventured into the culinary realm, opening a restaurant specializing in Chinese national cuisine in Bangkok. Through her astute management, the establishment not only flourished but evolved into a small yet popular chain. Her journey from corporate success to entrepreneurship showcased Wang Nan's determination and ability to carve her path. Little did she know that her life story would take a dark turn in the picturesque landscapes of Thailand, becoming the focal point of a shocking and heinous event that would leave authorities and medical professionals perplexed. She was a young, successful business owner who ran and grew the company well. She gave up everything in her personal life for the sake of her work. The young woman later said that her last relationship happened when she was in college. Now that she was in labor, she just did not have time to go on dates. Despite being almost 30, she wasn't too concerned about being alone because she had a job. She was always busy with work, always in a hurry and working nonstop. Even though she had lived in Thailand for a long time and had a good grasp of the language, she felt she could improve, so she enrolled in more classes at the training center. She met a young guy named Yu, and he observed her for a while before finally approaching. After a brief conversation in his native language, Yu inquired about why Nan was learning the language. She explained it was crucial for her business. Yu then proposed exchanging business cards and scheduling a time to meet up and spend time together. Even though Nan did not want to talk any longer, she gave him her business card out of courtesy, and he gave her his in return. His business card said that he was in the export-import business in Bangkok. Nan was not interested, so she threw the business card into her bag and forgot about it. Yu was the only one who seemed really interested in the girl. He called her the next day. She was busy with work and could not even spare a few minutes for the talk. She said no to the coffee meetup offer. A few days later, the same thing happened again. Nan said she was not available for a date because she was too busy getting ready for a business meeting. She planned to meet new people and grow her business connections there. After that, Yu showed up to the event with a beautiful bunch of flowers. He went up to Nan and asked her out again after waiting for her to get free. So much effort paid off for Wang Nan because no one had ever tried so hard to get her attention before. She agreed to have dinner with him. Not what anyone expected, Yu seemed to have lost his mind over Nan, not just fallen in love with her. His attention was always on her. He surprised her with gifts and flowers and called her at least twice a day to say good morning and good night. The guy's obsession bothered Nan, but it also made her feel good that someone was trying to win her love. The young woman then fell into a relationship for the first time in a long time, which she had not planned. Her man tried to be perfect in every way, not just how he wooed her. He shared many of her hobbies and points of view, learned how to cook Wang's favorite dishes, tried to make their free time more interesting by getting tickets to different events, and was always ready to help her at work and at home. Wang Nan could not believe how happy she was. She thought those kinds of things only happen in movies. But she was really going through it, but Yu was in a hurry. She had only been seeing him for a few months before he started making plans for the wedding and coming up with names for their children. In situations like this, Yu started talking about how they were both in their 30s and that it was time to plan a family and a wedding without rings and gowns. This made Wang a little uncomfortable. When her admirer did something bad, Nan did not know how to act or how to respond. Yu was right about how old he was, but she still was not sure if he was the right person to marry. One day, Yu promised Nan that he would show her his love that same night after they had another hard talk in which Nan told him she had questions. The deeply in love man wrote his girlfriend a long, loving letter after they got home. They told each other they loved her, and he promised to be the best husband and dad to their kids. Wang woke up to discover the bull at her door with a bouquet of flowers. Xiao Dongyu stated that he had never been so serious about his plans and declared that he was ready to take her as his wife right then. Nan made a joke that the courts would not open for another hour and a half. Yu offered to go there right now. If the door was open, they would file the marriage right away. Wang agreed to do this because she was sure the government office would be closed. She was shocked when the door opened and the official in charge of registering groups was already sitting down at his desk. It turned out that Yu had planned everything ahead of time and asked that they make an exception for him and his bride so that they could get married early in the morning. The wedding was very strange. There were no guests, rings, dress, veil, or pictures that people would remember. Wang Nan could not get rid of the thought that this was not real because she had not even told the chosen one's mother about her. They had always been very close, and when she woke up, she already had a marriage license in her hands. Next to her was a happy husband who had just gotten married. It was a terrible accident. In June 2019, Nan was 3 months pregnant when her husband convinced her to take a holiday and go on a short trip. Nan reluctantly agreed because she knew they would not be able to go anywhere for a long time after the baby was born. They picked the Pai National Park Reserve, which is known for its beautiful forests and ancient paintings on the rocks. But on the morning of June 9th, tragedy struck while the couple was watching the sunrise from one of the viewing decks. Wang Nan fell from a height of 10 feet all of a sudden. As soon as help came, Yu ran up to them in tears and begged them to save his wife and the baby she was carrying. The man said that his wife got sick while they were enjoying the first rays of the sun rising. She took a step to the side, but then she got dizzy and fell. The young woman fell from the 10th floor before he could pick her up. She had several open breaks and it looked like there was no way out. Nan groaned and opened her eyes all of a sudden. Right away, her husband stopped sobbing and crying, and he had a horrified look on his face. He quickly calmed down, thanked God loudly that his beloved was still living, and then whispered something in Chinese into her ear. Family life that was not stable. Let us look back 6 months and see how the couple's family life was before we talk about what happened that terrible day. To begin with, Wang felt bad about her marriage almost as soon as it was official. But at first, she hoped Yu would be a good husband, someone she could count on and someone who would back her. Sadly, her dreams did not come true, and the new husband soon showed what he really was like. He played video games at home almost all the time and happily spent his wife's money. He did not add anything to the family budget. When his wife asked him why he was not at work, Yu said it was because his business was slowing down for the season and he could take it easy for now. But this break had gone on for too long. The young woman then chose to find out what her husband did for a living. That is when she learned that his successful business of importing and exporting only lived on paper and business cards. It hit Wang at that moment how big of a mistake it was that she had not even thought about writing up a prenuptial agreement. Now her husband could spend the money she makes and take her stuff if they got a divorce. They had a serious talk and Yu cried like a kid. He told her that he was having short-term problems but that he would get better and find a good job. It was clear right away that he was not going to look for anything and was happy to just sit on his wife's neck. He was an adult, but he acted like a child. He played video games almost all the time. If he did something around the house or helped his wife at the restaurant, make sure to ask her for money for himself. She told Wang that she would not give him any more money until he found work. Yu stole from his wife and left the next day, taking Nan's marriage certificate and ID card with him. He didn't want the child they had together. She found out about the missing papers in the evening when her accountant called to ask about the transfer of a big amount of money from her account. Because she had not sent any money, the young woman was shocked, but she knew right away who had done it. This involved more than $500,000. The husband moved the money to his own personal account by showing the bank his marriage certificate and proof that it was their joint money that they managed together. The thief's husband was caught a few hours later when he tried to cash out some of the stolen money at the station. Wang did not think twice about calling the police. Yu cried again and begged his wife to forgive him while he was on his knees. He told them he had lost a lot of money playing and that they were now threatening to kill him if they did not get the money back. It turned out that this was not the first time the police had seen him. In fact, he had already spent 8 years in prison for robbery in his home country of China. It turned out that Wang did not know the man she married, which made her feel very bad. This young woman believed that gaming was a sickness and that she had to help her husband beat it so that he could return to normal life. Wang let her husband off the hook for half of his debt and gave him charge of one of her restaurants. At first, Yu seemed to be happy about it and take on the new responsibility. He even came up with a good plan for how the business could grow. But his excitement did not last long. He soon started to spend more time again on computer games and other fun things. It was during that time that Wang found out she was pregnant and told her husband. But he behaved in a strange and even hostile way. Yu said he was not ready for this yet, and he tried to get his wife to have an abortion, but she flatly refused. The husband then said he was going to file for divorce and go to court to get the property split. He did not talk to his wife for a few days, but all of a sudden he changed his mind and said sorry. Yu said he lied because he was upset, but he was actually excited about the new addition. He started to cook for her and help around the house again. 2 months later, Wang was overjoyed because her marriage was almost perfect, just like her lover had said it would be when they first met. He paid attention, cared, did his job as manager properly, and worked hard to get their house ready for the baby to come. One day, Xiaodong Yu offered to protect his wife's life and health because she was pregnant. He thought that this would help protect her and the baby in case of many unplanned events. The girl said yes right away and even asked herself why she had not thought of it before. Right after getting the insurance, Yu talked about taking a trip to relax and unwind a couple of weeks later. Her husband pushed, saying that they did not have a honeymoon and that they would not be able to travel for years to come of the baby. Wang was not sure. He also said that they were going through a tough time and needed to start over to get rid of all the bad feelings and heavy thoughts. His reasons were strong in the end, and Wang agreed. Her husband picked the place, booked the hotel, made a list of things to do, and planned the schedule so that the trip would be fun and useful for both of them without making the pregnant woman too tired. Nan told her husband to take care of everything, and she was glad to see how excited he was about their trip. They went to the park for the first time on June 7th and spent most of the day there. They took a lot of walks and stopped at many beautiful spots and lookouts. On that warm Friday night, there were a lot of people in the park. They were everywhere. Wang saw that her husband was getting tense and angry in the evening. When she asked him if everything was okay, he said that they could not enjoy the sunset in peace because there were so many people around. Wang even gave in because he thought it would be so romantic. When the sun went down, the park got less crowded. Yu climbed the fence of the viewing deck and called his wife over to the edge, telling her what a great view they had. It was already dark, and the pregnant woman said it might be unsafe to go there. The husband got mad, but after a while he came back to her and told her they had to go to the park to see the sunrise. Since they got back to the hotel after midnight, the couple chose to rest and sleep in on Saturday before leaving for the reserve early on Sunday. In the early hours of Sunday, the couple carried out their planned visit to the national park to watch the sunrise. That day, not many people came by, and Wang thought for a moment that they were the only ones there. On one of the viewing decks, they saw the sunrise. After that, Yu went down to the cliff and started to get his wife to come up to him to look at the rock paintings. The young woman was careful as she approached because she trusted her husband. That was a beautiful view from up there. Yu gave his wife a big hug and then asked her out of the blue if she felt bad about anything in her life. When asked that question, Wang was surprised, but she answered with confidence that she did not feel disappointed about anything. Yu then kissed his wife on the cheek, ran his hand through her hair, and leaned over to her ear and said, "Die." He let go of his wife and pushed her off the cliff at that moment. Yu looked around one more time to make sure no one saw them. He then looked very carefully down, but he could not tell where his wife had fallen. He listened. It was quiet. No one was yelling or calling for help, so there were also no witnesses downstairs. Then Yu slowly made his way to the park's exit to kill time until Wang was dead and could report what had happened. Although some walkers who had gone off trail down below saw the body lying on the rocks and called for help right away. Yu had already left the reserve. Several cars with flashing lights and sirens passed by. Right away, he figured out what was wrong and went back to where his wife had already fallen. He put on quite a show there by crying, screaming, and pleading for help. He was sure that his wife was dead at that point. Wang did catch on some tree branches during the fall, which slowed her down. She fell on some bushes and then rolled over on some rocks. It all softened the blow, which saved Wang and her child's lives but did not protect her from major injuries. He started to cry and say that he did not want to live without his wife and child. Suddenly she opened her eyes and tried to speak, but she couldn't. When that happened, everyone saw how horrified her husband really was. But he quickly calmed down, leaned over to his wife and hissed in Chinese that she should keep quiet if she wanted to live. The victim had a blow to the head, several closed and open fractures, cuts, soft tissue contusions, organs that had ruptured, and a lot of blood loss. Medical professionals were afraid that she would never be able to walk again even if she lived. For many days, Wang felt confused and was connected to machines that helped her stay alive. Her husband spent days and nights in her room and never left her side during this time. Doctors praised Yu's love and loyalty, but whenever he was alone with his wife, he thought about how to kill her without anyone finding out. He looked closely at the devices, but he still could not figure out how to turn them off without drawing attention to himself. Wang's husband was completely crazy when she came to her senses. He scared her so much that he never left her alone. He was afraid that she would tell the cops the truth about what had happened at any time. He made another threat against her when he was by himself, saying that he had nothing to lose. During the first questioning, the victim confirmed what her husband said, that she fell because she was dizzy. After a few hours, Nan asked the nurse to call the police again and not let her husband into the room when he left for a short time. She then told the horrible story of how she fell and said her husband had tried to kill her. Yu screamed when he walked into the room that his wife was crazy from the blow to the head and that he would never hurt her or the baby. But the man's words did not sound very believable, and he was arrested at the hospital the same day. He faced multiple charges at once, including attempted murder and threatening to hurt the woman if she spoke out. It made Wang happy when her husband was caught and sent to jail to wait for his trial. It would take a long time for her to get better, but she felt safe now. For a while, she thought that the pregnancy might still be possible since the baby had lived through the fall. They wanted to get an abortion because strong painkillers, multiple surgeries with general anesthesia, and antibiotics were needed. There were so many drugs that they put the mother's life ahead of the baby's. It came as a big shock to Wang, but she did what the doctor told her to do. Xiaodong Yu strongly denied that he was guilty and kept bringing up the accident story. Inside the jail, he kept himself together, hired good lawyers, and was sure that he would either get away with his crime or get a punishment that was not too harsh. Investigators and the prosecutor in charge of the case were sure that the defendant had done the crime for his own benefit. He wanted to get a big insurance payoff and inherit his wife's wealth, which was worth about $2.5 million at the time. However, during one of the interrogations, Yu shocked everyone by giving another reason for his cruel actions. He was angry with his wife when she decided to pay back only half of the debt he racked up from gambling too much. The man thought that if his wife loved him, she would have paid off all of his bills since she had the cash. This made Xiao Dongyu decide that Wang did not love him, so he could punish her. Following these words, the defendant became quiet. He then admitted that he had said too much and claimed that he had been misread. But his sudden confession and Wang's story were enough to get him sent to jail for a long time. Finding the defendant guilty in March 2021 and giving him a life sentence, Yu and his lawyers made several appeals. 6 months later, the Phi court was incredibly lenient and cut the life sentence in half, giving the defendant only 10 years in jail. The decision shocked everyone, and it would set a bad example, and could inspire other people to do horrible things. At the same time, a Chinese man drowned his wife on Phuket Island, Thailand, saying it was a mistake while they were swimming on the beach. He also did it to protect himself. The man was given the death penalty because it was proven that he killed the woman. She Dongyu got only 10 years in prison for making the failed murder attempt. What happened to Wang Nan? As of now, there has been no final decision in Wang Nan's case. The hurt woman is trying to appeal the court's ruling, while Yu serves his 10-year sentence. At the same time, Yu is also making appeals to try to show that he is innocent and get out of jail.